Hello everyone, what's up and welcome. So I've been getting a lot of questions about what I thought about the PTR changes. At first I wasn't going to do it because it's not exactly the most original idea or concept out there on YouTube, but I've been getting some interest in it, so I might as well give my take. The biggest change is the first change, but we're going to wait until the end to do that one so that I can force you guys to watch the entire video. But then we have Diva. Now these buffs have a little bit more of an impact than they kind of look on paper, and that is that she got 100 additional health, not armor, just regular health, and her movement speed was increased by 25% when she's firing. Now my first reaction to this is 25% additional movement speed of a really slow movement speed is still a really slow movement speed. And it still is, definitely. But it does give her a little bit extra DPS, a little bit extra staying power. Not too much though. Because of that, she can't really leverage the extra 100 health. It's a nice break point where the difference between 500 health and 600 health is actually pretty significant. It's hard to get over that extra 100 damage hump after the 500. Still, she doesn't really have too much of an impact, and the 100 health doesn't benefit her too much. Her call mech got reduced by 20%, the cooldown on that, which is really not a buff because remember the global cost of all ultimates were raised by 25%, and that did raise along with it. So this is just counteracting it because it's not even, come on, call mech is not an ultimate. But all in all, Diva is still pretty much a wet noodle. Now she's just a way more annoying wet noodle that is more difficult to kill. But I think, I don't really understand why she has to have such cripplingly low movement speed while firing in general. I feel like that was just a design decision that someone came up with and it's stuck around and they feel like they're bound to it. Why can't she just walk at a normal speed while she's shooting? Maybe if her base movement speed was 85% or 90% of a normal hero, but she could shoot while she's moving, you wouldn't need to go through all these crazy hoops and stuff. Just let her walk like a normal person, Blizzard. I think that wouldn't be too bad. Soldier 76, I really like these changes. So Soldier 76 has always had a problem with versus McCree. Pick Soldier versus McCree because McCree is a generalist, kind of jack of all trades type of DPS. He's kind of good at mid, long, and short range. He has a little bit of utility with his stun. He can roll around. And Soldier is kind of the same way. But McCree has the benefit of having better long range, more consistent damage because Soldier has to deal with spread in certain cases, plus it's inconsistent to track at long ranges. So there's really no difference between the two except that McCree was better. Now they're putting Soldier into more of his own role. They increase the bullet damage and they increase the spread a little bit. So now he actually does a lot more damage. He's less of a generalist, just sort of a jack of all trades things. And now Soldier's more of a raw, do a lot of damage type of character. And they made it so that he's more of a close range threat. So now Soldier has the advantage over McCree of being a little bit less versatile, like I said, a little bit less consistent with that tracking damage, but now he just does a lot more damage. And by the way, this 17 to 20, it seems really small, but that's a very important breakpoint. So now, for example, during his ultimate, this is actually a pretty decent buff to his ultimate because during his ultimate, he now kills heroes in only 10 shots. Where before he would take 12 to kill them. And for headshots, when you're not an ultimate, it only takes 5 shots to kill people. Where before it would take 6. Definitely very good buff for his damage, like I said. He's now in that big damage role. And I like it. That's going to help him out and really differentiate him from the rest of the cast. And a nano boost. I've said before that I think nano boost needs a survivability decrease because it's just impossible to kill the hero. And decreasing movement speed does this because the problem before is you had the big movement speed buff in addition to the granted damage reduction. So the movement speed would make you more mobile, which made you harder to hit. So that increased your survivability along with the damage reduction, meaning you had that double thing going on. And you know how I don't like double things, like I said before, with Diva having the double buff to her ultimate charge. So this is going to decrease their survivability. Plus the speed really broke a lot of heroes. Like for example, Reaper with the Beyblade combo, kind of Reinhardt to a certain extent, and the movement speed just pushes a lot of heroes beyond what they're supposed to be doing in a healthy manner. So I think this makes it strong in the normal, good, solid situations you're supposed to be used in, but it removes the cheese, like stupid combos of craziness, like the Beyblade and stuff like that. Personally, I didn't like those combos anyway. I always felt it much more satisfying to just do good, solid, proper ultimates in good places And this is going to increase the amount of skill it takes to use your ultimate. You no longer just do mindless, like, okay, guys, let's combo. You need to actually think about it and do it at the right time on the correct hero, not just always the same combo piece. Mei's ultimate cost increased. Well, that's obvious because it's one of the stronger ultimates in the game, and it's the fastest to charge by a ridiculous amount. So that's just obvious. So notice whenever Lucio gets nerfed, always another support kind of gets nerfed along with him. So the net result is Lucio is still very strong. I don't think this is going to stop him from being strong. 10% on the healing. I mean, he usually doesn't amp the healing anyway. He amps for the speed boost. So Lucio, still OP. Keep nerfing him, Blizzard, and eventually, maybe 10 patches later, of 10% reductions, he'll get there. Who knows? Zarya, I definitely agree with this. It was too easy to get max charge. Like, max charge should be a special thing because she's pretty much a monster with max charge. And I don't think it was intended originally for Zarya to just be able to pop and get to 100% charge in like 2 seconds relatively easily. It's not like it took some crazy amount of skill, just a little bit of knowledge on certain abilities, certain things you can abuse to really get charge off of, like Flame Strike, for example. And I think this is good because she was getting too much charge before for no effort. And in fact, she was getting so much charge that it was worth blowing your cooldown just to get charge, because you'd get so much charge that the charge gained is worth less than the actual shielding effect. So I think the shielding effect should definitely outweigh that. All right, next, Torbjorn. This is genius. This is something I never thought of, but I always was aware of because I actually like Torbjorn. I've tried to play Torbjorn quite a few times. I've gone on my little Torbjorn sprees because I just think the hero is really cool and fun. But there was always a problem and something I never really consciously thought of. But the issue is the first push in Overwatch is so important. It really sets this tone for the rest of the game. You get your ult advantage. You possibly get the point if you're attacking. It's really important. And Torbjorn has nothing. Like, half of his utility is being able to give armor out to people. The armor is so OP, right? But he can't do that on the first push. And then even after that, he needs to go into a dangerous position to get the scrap in certain cases. If his team loses the fight, he can't get the scrap because he can't go and get the scrap through pushing through the other team, obviously. So a Torbjorn on a winning team is not too bad, but a Torbjorn on a losing team is completely useless because he can never get scrap. And this gives him this passive scrap regen, which takes away this problem. So I think this is actually going to be a huge, huge buff because this is one of the biggest problems I had playing Torbjorn is that he just couldn't stop snowballs. It was literally impossible. So that's really good. 25%, that's just to offset the bug or whatever it was before, but very good. I like this. They really made sure to get their balancing perfectly. To offset this, they decreased the damage of the hammer by 27%. That's like a very specific percentage. I'm glad they did this, or else we'd have a 6-man Torbjorn melee meta. Definitely. Now, Widowmaker, her Venom Mines no longer damage her, which is whatever. I thought that was kind of a cute little thing, cute little point of depth. Like, you'd have to know where your Venom Mine was or whatever. But I guess it's a buff. It's a quality of life buff, but I don't really think it was necessary. Now, this, though, I hate this buff, not because I think that she's too strong. The Widow's Kiss buff, charge rate increased by 20%. That means that she charges her gun when it's scoped in 20% faster. And I hate this buff, not because I necessarily think that Widow is too powerful or good right now, just because you don't know. They just buffed her scope they just significantly buffed her scope speed. And now, remember, people have to go back and play Widow and remember how to play Widow again, because like I have 80 hours in the Widow, and I'm kind of rusty at Widow because no one has played her for the past few months because she was terrible. Now, I think that they should give people time to come and try her out again instead of buffing her again. Because now, with this, the double tap is actually there again. You can pretty much double tap people in the body the same way you could before at a pretty similar speed. I was playing her on the PTR, and like I said, it was a little bit rusty, but this iteration of her feels pretty similar to her old pre-nerf iteration with the charge rate and the scope rate buffs stacked on top of each other. So like I said, I just don't know. Double buffing a hero like this in such a short amount of time is just principally wrong. So regardless of if this is a good change or not, which like I said, I think it's a little bit too strong, it's just principally not a good thing. Next, and we're getting towards the end, is Pharah. Now, I really am not sure what Blizzard was. I don't know if Blizzard intends this to be a buff or a nerf. I don't know what the intended result of this was. But this is a nerf because the minimum explosion damage has been increased by like nothing. What's 13% of 120? Like 12. But the big thing is they removed the knockback. So before, even if you were just barely tapped by a rocket, you'd get knocked back like crazy, which make it very, very difficult to fight a Pharah if you were a less mobile hero like a Widowmaker or something. She'd just be juggling you around, and it was pretty obnoxious, to be honest. I think that was a little bit silly how much she would just knock you about like crazy, even with just these little taps. But that's removed. So now if she just barely nicks you on the side, it does do more damage, but she doesn't just blast you off in all sorts of random directions. So I like this change. I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily like a Pharah nerf. I do like this change. I think that maybe she could have gotten something a little bit extra to make up for it, because I would have liked this to be a net buff rather than a net nerf, and I think a lot of people will agree with that. Pharah is not super mega ultra strong right now. Last for the heroes, we have Mercy. So her passive health regen starts after 1 second as opposed to 3 seconds. I don't think this is going to do anything for competitive games or high-level games. This is just going to help out lower-ranked Mercies, because when you are playing against better players, they have more focus, they have better aim. So they just kill the Mercy straight up. They just go in and she dies in like 1 second. This is better for the lower ranks where people will hit the Mercy a little bit and then they'll miss, or they'll get sidetracked, so she can regen more in fights like that. That's the effect of that. Basically, it's not going to affect high-level play at all, I don't think. But now let's talk about the big change. Ultimate cost globally increased by 25%. Well, the first thing is, what would be the result of this? There are a couple of results. First of all, there are, less ultimates available in the game. That's very obvious. What that means is it's harder to build up a full set of 6 or 4 or 5, because right now it's pretty easy. Heroes build up their ultimates very quickly, and so most attacking teams just wait for 5 ultimates or 6 or 4, a pretty large number of ultimates before ever actually doing a big push. It's almost never worth it to just use 2 ultimates or even 3 ultimates in a fight, because the other ultimates are going to come up so quickly that there's no point in waiting. This will make it so teams actually have more of an interesting choice. Do you want to build up for the full, buffet of ultimates? That'll take a little bit longer. So there's actually a choice to be made, a viable choice where you can say, this fight we're going to use 2 or 3 ults, because the potential benefit you have for that push outweighs the amount of time you'd have to wait for the rest of your ults to come online. So I actually think that adds quite a bit of depth to the ult management aspect of the game. It isn't just going to be, we're on attack, let's wait for 6 ults and go kill them. What else does this do? So it makes the gap between fast ults and slow ults more. What I mean by that is, so a person who charges their ult up quicker, like a better player who's doing really well, doing a lot of damage, is going to get more ults off per game than a player who's charging it slower, obviously. Let me give you an example. So right now, you need 100% ult charge to get an ult. With the PTR patch, you need 125% ult charge to get an ult. All right. Now, let's say you have a player A. He's fast, so he gets a 100% ult charge per minute. Then you have player B. He's a little bit slower. He gets only 75% ult charge per minute. Let's draw that out to 4 minutes. Now, at 4 minutes, the first guy is going to have 400% ult charge, and the second guy is only going to have 300% ult charge. Now, in the old system, the guy with 400% ult charge would have 4 ults. The guy with 300% ult charge would have 3 ults. So he has 75% less ults than the faster guy. Sorry if this is getting a little confusing, but stay with me. In the new system, the 400% guy would have 3 ults, and the 300% guy would have 2 ults. So that is a 33% difference in the amount of ultimates. So in the new system, people who charge their ults faster are rewarded more than people who charge their ults slower. This is going to make ultimates in the game less of a playing field leveler as they are now, and it's going to introduce more skill mathematically. If you look about it that way, a better player will actually have more reward now than they did in the old patch. So overall, I think that this is an amazing change for the game. I think that we're going to see less of those big 6 ult versus 6 ult cluster fights and more tactical, use an ult here, use an ult there. Plus the better players are going to be rewarded more. So overall, I think this is just a great change. I love it. If anything on this list is kept, I think that this is the best change. But anyway, guys, that's all I have to say about it. Let me know what you think about the PTR changes in the comments. Do you agree with what I said? Do you have some different opinions yourself? So like if you liked it, which I hope you did. Hope you got something out of it. Maybe learned something, maybe even had a little bit of fun. So stay positive and have a great day. Peace out, guys.